Capital Program Oversight Committee meeting is called to order. Mr. Spiro, are there any members of the public who have signed up and are ready to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 3 public speakers. The first is Jason Pinero.
I know that you guys are tired, so am I. But I'm gonna bring the points to the table. I wonder why, on the design of the ADA on 6th Avenue on the L, why is not the 6th Avenue line F and M trains not included in there? Because it's a station complex. And why the J, the Z, and the L train at Broadway Junction are not included as well as the master plan for to be ADA. So, developing story guides, congestion pricing is close to be a reality. So we will find out more throughout the day or so. So stay tuned for the news.
Thank you, Mr. Pinero. Next speaker is Kevin Zhang.
Hello, good afternoon to Friend of Rare. My name is Kevin Zhang. I would like to request that the MTA, all subway stations accessible, Times Square Shuttle Station accessible, and transfer station complex at Union Street and Livonia Avenue, because some subway stations are not accessible and few subway station direction are not accessible, like the ones at 49th Street southbound station on the N, R, and W train. All ESI station needs to install ADA accessible elevators and bathrooms. All subway stations needs to be ADA accessible elevators, and including 49th Street southbound station on the N, R, and W train, and 50th Street northbound station on the C and E train. Since it got ADA elevators at 49th Street northbound station and 50th Street southbound station, Times Square shuttle train station needs to be renovation, eliminate gap theaters, and add elevators and bathrooms. Union Street on the D train and Livonia Avenue on the L train will be add transfer, accessible connections, elevators, and bathrooms. But Union Street on the number 3 train that are not included is on the L train included on Livonia Avenue on the elevators on page 21. So thank you, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Thank you. Our third speaker, final speaker, is Omar Vera.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. MTA Board CPOC meeting. I understand we're late in the afternoon. Well, not that late considering the day's getting brighter thanks to being the spring equinox, but yes. But let's get down to business. So I reiterate what Jason, what Kevin said, right? Like ADA accessible elevators. Thanks for, like I mentioned this morning, for the elevators at Astoria Boulevard. I mentioned that this morning, but we could do better, of course. For example, how about making ADA accessibility at Queensboro Plaza? That's a big station where many. It's a bi-level station, of course, where the 7 and an NW meets. Therefore, but they can only transfer between one direction if they're wheelchair bound. So maybe we should make an elevator so that basically it can improve connectivity between directions. And other than that, I like how all the plans are rolling by just well. Remember, we need to expand just like last century, and we will sooner or later. All right, have a good one.
Concludes our public speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Spiro. Now may I have a motion to approve the minutes of our February CPOC meeting? Hearing no corrections or comments, all in favor? Aye. It's approved. Mr. Spiro, take us through our work plan,
There's no changes in the work plan this month, Mr. Chairman.
and then let's proceed with our capital program update. NYCT.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anthony Fabrizio, Program Officer. Bill Montanil, Program Officer, and I will be presenting the Stations Division Capital Program Update. I'll provide the update on the 2015-2019 Stations Capital Plan, the Stations Program progress since the November 2018 report, ADA accessibility projects at key ADA and additional ADA stations, and the system-wide accessibility study progress. Bill will provide updates on the Sea Beach Line ADA and renewal projects and the ESI program. The 2015 to 2019 stations program includes renewals at 16 stations, elevator escalator replacements at 29 stations, ADA accessibility at 23 stations, component investments at 107 stations, and miscellaneous projects at 13 stations, totaling $3.19 billion. This total budget does not include cost for enhanced station initiative projects, fast forward projects, or private developed projects. These next few slides show project awards since our November 2018 report. There have been 13 project awards, not including small business mentoring program projects. These include $355 million for key ADA projects at 3 stations, $66 million for component projects at 10 stations, $95 million for elevator escalator replacements at 4 stations. This includes the 2 main escalators, the street elevator and stair replacements that leads from the Grand Central Terminal to the Grand Central Lex mezzanine. These will be replaced in 2 phases over 26 months, starting with the stair reconstruction and followed by the escalator and elevator replacement. Projects awarded since November 2018 also include $8 million for the Small Business Mentoring Program, stair refurbishment, and lighting projects, for a total number of awarded projects at $524 million. Oops. Excuse me. Where is this? We've also, this slide shows projects that we've completed since the November 2018 report. Completed projects include 12 stair refurbishment and replacement projects in the Small Business Mentoring Program and platform edge replacement, stair and ceiling repairs at 3 stations on the 8th Avenue line. Completed projects since November are a total of $179 million. These photos show an example of a subway stair refurbishment at 14th Street, Broadway, 7th Avenue as part of the Small Business Mentoring Program. This photo shows an example of an elevated stair refurbishment at the 238th Street station on the Broadway 7th Avenue line, also as part of the Small Business Mentoring Program. This photo shows another example of a subway stair refurbishment at the 50th Street 8th Avenue station, which is also part of the Small Business Mentoring Program. Now I'll talk about the ADA accessibility status on these next few slides. Out of total of 493 stations, including Staten Island, 120 stations are accessible, 87 key stations, and 33 additional stations. These stations are utilized by over 42% of the total subway ridership. For the 13 remaining key stations, 68th Street Hunter College is in final design, and 12 are in construction. Key ADA stations total $883 million. The 68th Lexington Avenue station is pending real estate agreement resolutions, as an easement agreement is required with Hunter College for a new street to mezzanine elevator and reconfigured stair within the Hunter College East building footprint, as well as construction agreements to perform construction in the area within the Hunter College property and at 3 sub-basement levels. Negotiations between MTA Legal and Hunter College are ongoing. In addition to the key stations, we also have 16 additional ADA stations in various phases of design and construction. 3 are in master plan, 9 are in design, and 4 are in construction. The additional ADA stations total $548 million. The schedule slippage of the new Utrecht Avenue and 62nd Street stations will be discussed later in the report, along with more detail on the Sea Beach Line stations. This slide is a rendering of our typical street elevator that's under construction on the northeast corner of 55th and 7th on the 57th, I'm sorry, on the corner of 55th and 7th at the 57th 7th Avenue station on the Broadway 7th Avenue line. Substantial completion is scheduled for February 2021. These next couple of slides will show the progress of the system-wide accessibility study. Evaluations of the remaining 350 stations remains underway. 150 station surveys were completed at the end of December 2018 as scheduled. An additional 64 stations will be surveyed by the end of April 2019, with the balance to be completed by the end of 2019. The evaluations develop a conceptual accessibility plan and an order of magnitude cost for each station, and the evaluations will inform the selection of new stations in the next and subsequent capital programs. Upcoming steps include identification of the stations with community input. A town hall meeting was held on February 6th with the disabled community to identify selection criteria for future ADA stations, which will help inform the selection for the 2020 to 24 capital program. And we will continue to evaluate and advance ADA projects for scoping and design. 15 stations have been referred for design. We will also advance the Fast Forward Plan strategy of an additional 50 accessible stations with the strategy of no more than 2 station stops away. With that, Bill Montanil will continue with the report on the Sea Beach Renewal Project and the ESI program.
Could I, when you finish the key stations that you have either under construction or under design, and the additional stations that you have either under construction or under design, when those are done, those 25 or 30 stations, what percentage of the subway population will now have accessible stations? You indicated that before you got to those, we were at 42%. What will the number go to?
You know, I'll have to get back to you exactly on the number.
Very good question.
Yeah. We'll update you on the, yeah,
Yes.
we will do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This chart shows placed in service progress on the 9-station Sea Beach Line renewal project. As a reminder, all 9 northbound stations were placed in service in May 2017, and 3 of the southbound stations, Kings Highway, Avenue U, and 86th Street, were placed in service in October 2018. The 6-station renewal project has been delayed to the summer of 2019. A change order work for steel repair work at the Fort Hamilton Parkway Station is under negotiation, and the structural steel subcontractor has not been responsive. We are meeting with the contractor's executives to mitigate the delay and complete the work as quickly as possible. ADA elevators at the New Utrecht 62nd Street stations will be placed in service also in the summer of 2019 at the same time as the platforms. The substantial completion of the 3-station renewal project was achieved on March 6, 2019. This was 6 days late. Substantial completion of the 7th Avenue entrance of the 8th Avenue station is delayed 1 month due to additional work related to the substructure steel replacement of a staircase. The substantial completion date of the 6th-station renewal has been moved to the fall of 2019 due to the slippage of the placed in service date. The project budget has increased by $25 million due to the additional structural steel repair work, manhole repair, and extensive water remediation work at the station. We are reassessing additional needs for future reports. These are completed photos of the Avenue U station. On the left is the new platform overhang and retaining wall. Note the backyards of the houses are the actual platform roof. On the right, spanning the tracks, is the control house. These are platform before and after photos. The ceiling has been scraped and painted. Glass fiber reinforced concrete panels have been installed, and new lighting has been installed on the platform. Risk and mitigations for the Sea Beach projects are shown on this slide. Regarding Risk 1, temporary platforms will remain at the 8th Avenue and Bay Parkway Station until all southbound platforms have been reopened. Regarding Risk 2, on the 3-station renewal, the Avenue U northbound platform leak remediation will be performed under a separate contract. That's the last one to be done. And on the 6-station renewal, leak remediation will be performed prior to opening those 6 southbound platforms. Regarding risk item 3, regarding the elevators at New Utrecht Avenue, the contractor is experiencing issues with the elevator glass supplier. Executive meetings and alternate glass suppliers have been provided to the contractor to help mitigate this issue. And regarding item 4, as mentioned earlier, the northbound elevator will be placed in service in October 2019. Moving to the ESI program, the ESI program awarded 6 packages covering 20 stations. 5 of the packages used the alternative delivery method of design-build, and 1 used the traditional design-bid-build approach, which was awarded to a small business mentoring contractor. Out of the 20 stations, 17 were closed for construction fully for between 128 and 243 days, depending on the work that had to be done. I'm pleased to report that all have been reopened. 3 were reopened early, 11 on time, 2 were 1 day late, and 1 was 27 days late due to a field condition with, again, structural steel. 3 stations remained open during the construction. Major work at 2 of the stations is complete, and work continues at 1 station. These are photos of the platform and new customer waiting area at the Broadway station in Astoria. This was package 2. This is a photo of the 39th Avenue station in Astoria, again package 2. New glass and mesh windscreens and canopies were installed. Precast concrete platform panels were replaced. And the yellow part of the platform is the new platform edge and tactile warning strip. Below the platform edge is the repaired structural steel. And while the structural steel looks good now, that wasn't always the case. This is what it looked like before and after. On the left, the photo on the left, the green lines represent the outline of where the top flange of the girder used to be. The photo on the right is the repaired top flange when we were done. The girder top flanges were repaired by removing the deteriorated top flange plates and bolts. 3 new layers of top flange steel plates were installed to reinforce the girder. In addition, significant deterioration was encountered on the girder web, as shown on the photo on the left. Photo right, the girder webs were repaired by removing the deteriorated steel and bolting on reinforcing plates of various sizes. While all this work was performed, other departments took advantage of the track outages to perform work along the line. This photo on the left is the new countdown clock at the street level, and on the right is the new mezzanine at the 39th Avenue station. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Nice job. Mr. Pally.
Sorry. Do we include now countdown clocks at the street level as a normal occurrence with our renovated stations?
That will be added to any station we renovate, yes.
Going backwards and going forwards?
I don't know about going forward.
Going forward?
Yes.
So any station would automatically get that at the street level?
Yes, I believe that is our new guideline now, yes.
Okay.
It was very well received, so
Yes.
something we want to do.
We ready for IEC?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Mark Saluka, and I'll be reporting on the IEC's report on Transit's ADA accessibility program.
Please be pithy.
I try. New York City highlighted 16 accessibility projects. We'd like to point out that 12 of those 16 projects are included in the IEC's quarterly traffic light report, and that can be found on page 80 of your CPOC book. Key performance criteria regarding cost, contingency, and schedule were reviewed, and they're all identified as green, meaning they have no variance exceptions since the last reporting period. Regarding the other 4 projects, 3 are included in the Sea Beach project at New Utrecht, 62nd and 8th Avenue, and they're monitored separately by the IEC in the Sea Beach presentation. And the last project is Times Square. That'll be reported on separately by the IEC, also in a separate presentation. That concludes the IEC's ADA report.
Next IEC report?
Yes. Yes, Sea Beach. I'll also be reporting on the Sea Beach Station renewal update. Our last report to CPOC was in November, and at that time, the new substantial completion dates were established for both the 3 and the 6 station contracts. As reported by New York City Transit just earlier this month, the 3 station project achieved substantial completion. All platforms are back in service at Kings Highway, Avenue U, and 86th Street, and the IEC would just like to commend the project team and the performance and also the condition of the stations and the improvements that were made at those 3 stations. Regarding the 6 station contract, although great progress has been made at some stations, ongoing construction challenges have impacted the interim milestone dates, and the April 2019 dates will not be achieved. Unforeseen field conditions, structural repairs, leaks, added scope, material fabrication, and delivery delays have impacted those dates of reopening the remaining 6 southbound platforms and also placing the new 4 elevators in service at New Utrecht and 62nd Street. And the IEC is just concerned that the remaining project risks that were identified on Transit slide will continue to impact the project into 2019. That concludes our report.
Yes, thank you. I'm Kent Haggis, and I have 2 points to make in summary of our observations of the ESI program. As program management indicated, the program is nearly complete. All 17 of 20 stations that were closed for reconstruction have reopened, and 14 of those 17 are now substantially complete. We agree with the project team that the remaining work at those stations, all stations, should be substantially complete by mid-May. Secondly, while the program cost is on budget, we see a cost risk to the program due to the remaining work in several stations that's now being underway after they have reopened. Those are my remarks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Haggis. Are there any questions for IEC on these projects? Hearing none, then we'll go to update on Sandy recovery and resiliency.
Good afternoon. My name is Branko Kleva. I'm the program executive for the Sandy Recovery and Resiliency Program, and I will be presenting the program update together with Sonia J. Singh, who is the program executive in the infrastructure unit. We will be providing a program update and updates to the Coney Island Yard project and the Clifton Shop reconstruction project. In the recovery program, so far we have rehabilitated 7 of the 9 underground under river tunnels that were flooded during Superstorm Sandy. Of the 2 that are remaining, the Canarsie Tunnel project is in construction, as you have heard earlier today, and the Rutgers Tunnel project will be awarded for construction after the airline project is completed. We repair damages at the Rockaway Park Yard, and the Coney Island Yard, the 148th Street Yard, and the 207th Street Yard projects were awarded last year and are in construction. I will provide more details on the Coney Island Yard project. We also completed the reconstruction of the South 3rd Station, which included resiliency measures such as installation of marine doors at street entrances and critical facilities to protect the station from future storms. And we also rehabilitated the St. George Terminal in Staten Island. All of the completed projects were largely on time and within budget. The remaining recovery projects include the Rockaway Line wrap-up work and the rehabilitation of the track and signal equipment on the A line between 200 and 207th Streets. On the resiliency program, we are in the process of installing flood protection devices at vulnerable street openings, such as street entrances, vent structures, personnel and equipment hatches, and manholes. All of these devices, including marine doors, flex gates, flood walls, and mechanical closure devices, are custom-made for each opening. Vent bays are the most numerous. There are over 2,200 of these openings, which are receiving easily deployable mechanical closure devices. Coney Island Yard, 148th Street Yard, and 207th Street Yard projects that are in construction, which I mentioned on the earlier slide, also include resiliency work as well as repair work. Resiliency work primarily includes the installation of perimeter wall to protect the yards from future floods. A similar wall has been installed at the Hamels Y facility in the Rockaways, while further protection of the Rockaway subway line over the Jamaica Bay is being developed. Also, a design-build project to construct a new resilient Clifton car maintenance shop in Staten Island is underway, and Sonia will provide more additional information about that project. Upcoming resiliency projects include critical facilities protection, St. George Terminal perimeter wall, internal station hardening, and substation hardening. The Coney Island Yard complex is the largest rapid transit yard in the world, covering over 75 acres. It includes 3 subyards serving 6 subway lines, and it has the capacity to store over 880 rail cars. It houses 4 train repair shops, a rail car wash, and various equipment and support facilities. The yard was flooded during Superstorm Sandy, affecting service and damaging tracks and power and communication cables and equipment. The Coney Island Yard project was awarded to Tully Construction in March of 2018. The project involves the installation of approximately 12,000 linear feet of flood wall, protection at night gates, hardening of the traction power motor shop, installation of new and improved drainage, 2 new pump stations, an additional outfall, debris protection on the creek bridges, as well as the construction of a bridge that will carry power feeders and communication cables across the yards. The project is on schedule and within budget. The rendering shows the cable bridge on the top and the debris shields on the railroad bridges crossing the Coney Island Creek. The project is approximately 7% complete and is on schedule, as I mentioned, although 20% of the time has elapsed, which is typical at the start of any such project. The contractor has mobilized, is performing surveys, test pits, submittal packages, and acquiring permits and materials. He has started the fabrication of the cable bridge and installation of the flood wall. In the next 6 months, we will start work on the drainage elements, like the outfall and pumping stations. The contractor will also begin the installation of piles for the cable bridge foundations, and he will continue installing the perimeter wall. So far, the contractor has installed over 1,600 linear feet of perimeter wall, which ranges in height from 8 to 14 feet and is driven approximately 30 feet below ground. These photos show the test of the helical piles, which were going to be used for the foundations of the cable bridge. The tests were successful, and now the contractor can begin with the installation. Here's a image of the fabrication of the cable bridge, which is being assembled off-site at the contractor's facility and will be delivered to the yard in 60-foot sections. All project milestones are on schedule, and there are no issues. That concludes the presentation on the Coney Island Yard.
So, Branko, you mentioned improved and new drainage for the Coney Island Yard. Into where will that drain?
That will drain into the Coney Island Creek.
Which then drains into the ocean.
Right. But the pumping system would be able to overcome the pressures if there was a flood. So the pumping system were able to pump out.
And are we going to have the similar kind of drainage from, trains that are stored that we have had at Sunnyside Yard, for instance, in Queens? Or is there some sort of cleansing that happens before it gets put into the ocean?
While the cleaning facility, the car wash, has its own mechanism for filtering.
I'm thinking of engine oil and all sorts of things like that. Is there any?
I will have to check to see what the design shows for that.
Thank you.
Sonia will now take the lead and discuss the Clifton shop.
Good afternoon. The Clifton Shop Design Build contract was awarded in December 2016 to Prismatic Development Corporation with a 43-month construction duration with a substantial completion date of July 2020. This is the first design build where the existing shop remains operational through construction. The existing shop will be demolished once the new shop is operational. The new shop will be resilient to Category 2 hurricane. It will be a steel frame building with a 4-track maintenance shop with admin offices, support rooms, and employee facilities. Once the new shop becomes operational, the existing offices of Staten Island Railroad will be relocated from 60 Bay Street to the new facility when completed. The project status. The current project schedule shows a 10-month delay, a slip of 7 months since we last reported in the CPOC report of July 2018. Prior to the start of excavation activities, the contractor was required to prepare an environmental boring program to manage waste from the project. During the course of its implementation and testing protocol, hazardous soil was discovered in several areas at the site. This delayed the start of pile driving activities and subsequent activities to follow. A change order has been issued to the contractor for the disposal of 1,000 tons of hazardous soil for a price of $311,000. New York City Transit is currently performing its schedule analysis, and the contract may be extended based on its findings. A lessons learned from this project is that we plan to take samples and test soil that was disturbed prior to the award of future contracts. We will also include a unit price line item in contracts for the removal and disposal of historical fill and hazardous soil. Currently, the project is on budget, and we will review the costs at 50% completion to evaluate all needs as appropriate. The project is currently 23% complete. The contractor has disposed the hazardous soil. All production piles have been driven. 582 piles were driven. Concrete work for the pile caps has started. To date, 370 cubic yards of concrete have been poured. Trenching for underground utilities has started. In the design stage, 3 additional permits have been issued since the last CPOC report of July 2018. Upcoming activities for the next 6 months: all pile caps, building foundation, grade beams will be poured. We will continue the installation of underground utilities, start the erection of structural steel. While there has been a delay in the acceptance of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing design package, construction permits for several tasks have been issued, some which were on critical path. New York City Transit and the contractor are working together to resolve any outstanding issues to minimize any further impact to the schedule. Are we done? As mentioned earlier, all production piles have been installed. There were 582 piles driven that varied between 60 to 120 linear foot. The contractor at a given time used 3 rigs to drive pile driving activities. Oh, this slide shows the prep work of concrete pour prior for the pile cap installation. As you can see, there's a crawler crane with a boom shown on the left of the photo that is being used to pour the concrete. 130 pile caps and 100 braid beams are needed for the new facility. Clifton Yard the site is very long and narrow. The existing shop, which you can see at the foreground, needs to be in operation during construction of the shop. Vehicular access is difficult and the site cannot accommodate too many work vehicles at the same time because of the ongoing construction activity. This is a typical concrete pour for the pile cap. Here, because of the site constraints, the contractor had to use a boom crane to pour the concrete. To conclude, we've installed 582 piles that have been driven. The delay is approximately 5 months due to the disposal of hazardous soil and additional time that was required to pour pile driving activities due to longer piles needed to support the building load. Clifton Yard being a small and narrow site, all other major work activities are sequential due to site constraints. The milestones subsequent to the installation of the production of piles listed above project a sequential delay. Prismatic performs their own concrete and excavation work with its force. We anticipate that we can recover some time once the concrete has been poured and the slab has been poured. Multiple trades can then work parallel with the building footprint. Every effort has been made to mitigate the delay, such as resequencing work, extending long hours over time, pushing submittals to an early date. The building commissioning plan has been approved. The communication systems kickoff meeting completed and accepted. Major equipment like the heat recovery units have already been procured and stored at an off-site location, ready to be installed parallel to the structural steel erection. Environmental surveys that were needed for the existing shop have already been completed. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you. IEC, pithy, please.
It will be. The IEC report for the Coney Island Yard project can be found starting on page 61 of the CPOC book. As reported by the agency and based on the IEC's review of the project schedule, the substantial completion date remains September 2022. The first update to the baseline is currently under review. The IEC reviewed the project's total budget. Based on a review of the associated design, construction, and soft costs, the IEC concurs that this project is within budget. The IEC participates in monthly risk management meetings with the project. The project has effective risk mitigations in place to control the top project risks. This concludes the IEC's comments on the Coney Island Yard project.
Thank you. Clifton Shop.
Hi, this is Diane Rinaldi reporting on Clifton Shop. The IEC report begins on page 65 of your CPOC book. I'll shorten my remarks to say achieving the current projected completion date of May 2021 will require a significant uptick in productivity. This is illustrated in the last page of my report. And the project team is taking actions to mitigate potential risks to future productivity by completing early submittal requirements for communications and commissionings, which tend to impact projects. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Are there any questions on that? Okay, agenda items 5, capital program status, 6 quarterly traffic light reports, and 7 quarterly capital change order reports are in your committee book. Is there anything to add, Mr. Spiro?
That's it. We're here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to respond to Mr. Palley's question about the percent of subway ridership?
Yes, thank you.
When we complete the 13 remaining key ADA and 16 additional ADA stations, we'll be at approximately 48% of subway ridership from the 42 we quoted.
Could I ask a question? Once you get to that 48%, what is the largest usage subway station in the system which will not yet be accessible? Because there's got to be 52% then left, right?
Right.
And I assume each station, knowing from my friend over here, is not equal to each other. So can you give us, in possible, a list of those stations by usage that will be left after you finish the ones you are working on now?
Yeah, so it's very likely one of the complexes, but well, I'll have to get with ops planning
Fine.
and get those numbers.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. That's the end of our agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor? We are adjourned. Corporate governance.